On, and we are live. What is up, everybody? How is it going? Austin Prechtelevate Performance, coming at you live today on this wonderful Thursday. I am joined by my badass client, Brandy. Say hi, Brandy.
Hello.
Cool. And we're doing an interview today because you're a badass, like I alluded to already, and you might not own up to it, but you are. And so what was that?
I said I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. So while we're kicking this thing off, as people are tuning in, let us know how your day is going. Feel free to drop a like on this video so we know that you're here. And yeah, we're gonna jump into this. So let's give the audience a bit of a backstory on who you are and like how old are you, like what do you do for work, like and where you're from, because we're actually from close to the same area, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So obviously my name's Brandy. I am 40. I'm about to turn 41 here very soon. I have two kids. I am married also. I have two kids, 9 and 13. Both are boys.
Oh, there we go.
My young does have special needs, but he's very creative, very smart. My oldest just plays sports nonstop. So we're constantly running with sports. I do work a day job. It's part-time, but I'm the office manager of a roofing company.
Yeah.
And so own my own food prep and catering business. So
that's so cool. That's a lot. That's awesome. You got a lot going on.
I do. I have to say, I live in Indiana, so I live in Brazil, and I know you're close to like Farmersburg, right?
Well, so I originally grew up in Farmersburg, and I spent like the majority of like my youth in that area, like Terre Haute area, and so and I went to Purdue up in West Lafayette, and then I met my now wife out in Oregon, and then we moved from. I convinced her to move to Indiana for me, and then we ended up moving like all over the country. Now we're actually in Washington, so it's been pretty cool. But yeah, no, it's awesome, cool. And so you mentioned, having you've got a lot of stuff going on. Like you're a very, very busy person. Like you like, and so like how does managing all those things at once and having like self-care in the form of like a fitness journey or a health journey, how is that like? How is finding that like delicate balance going?
So it's hard, and kind of why signing up with you helped, because I'm kind of making more time for this stuff. Before I would let myself kind of fall to the bottom, I get everything else done and be like, oh well, maybe I'll run tomorrow, or maybe I'll do this tomorrow, and I'm just kind of kept putting stuff off. Now I have more knowledge, a little bit, the support from the group and that sort of thing. It makes it a little bit easier to make time for myself, so I can if I did a rundown really quick, we get up, we get ready for school, I take both the kids to school, come home, get ready for work, go to work. When I leave work, I have to pick up kids and come home. And so like in that hour, I try to get my workout done. And then I move towards like homework and our dinner, and then going to the kitchen to make Kids Fix meals. And so it's been, I know I could probably get up earlier in the morning, but I get up at 6:30 now, and that's early for me.
That is a day.
But then when things get thrown in, when it's baseball season, it's a lot harder. When it's, we had a funeral last night, so that kind of took up an extra hour or so that I would have been doing something else. And, so it's hard some days, but
that's and it's never ending too. And it's one of those things. It's like people, I think they're always trying to like find that perfect time to start, or they're always trying to find that perfect time in their own journey to to begin, or they're waiting for this kind of like next chapter moment, which sometimes that works out and sometimes that's fine to have that like New Year's, or like if you move to a new place or start a new job or something like that. But a lot of the times, most people they're just waiting and they're waiting and they're just like, they're putting themselves at the bottom of the list, kind of like you talked about, and they get into that habit of it. And what a lot of people kind of, I think, fail to realize is that like, you got to create those opportunities. Like the opportunities aren't going to come on their own necessarily, not too often anyways. And so like really like opening that door for yourself and like making that time and really like carving it out of your day, I think is like so important, that a lot of people would benefit from, because they're almost too patient. They're like, I'm going to wait until the time's right. But the time's never truly there's never going to be a perfect moment to start your own journey. Right. So,
I mean, and there's, sometimes when my son has a baseball tournament, we're gone most of the weekend. but I'll try, when I used to run, I used to do a lot of stuff, but things happen. But I would take my running shoes there. Sometimes there's a place to walk or run, in between games. Sometimes you have an hour or more, that you're waiting, and you can do that. But there's also some places where it's not feasible. There's, it's on a main highway or something, and there's not really a place to run safely or something like that. So that's never perfect, but I've tried.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It always happens, an injury or, I got really sick one year and they're long-term things. And so then by then I have no motivation or the stamina to run or what have you. So it's like getting myself back going again was really hard.
Absolutely. So let's talk about that for a second. So one, Brianna says hi, by the way.
Hi.
And two, so before you and I worked together, what was your biggest struggle in your fitness journey? Because you mentioned, lack of motivation. You also mentioned, I know that you had some like kind of like health problems that kind of prevented you from doing a lot of like the running and things like that you used to do really frequently.
Yeah. So I'm not new to the fitness world or whatever. Certified to teach yoga. I used to run a lot and many marathons. I mean, I did all of that stuff, but when something would happen, I have a crooked spine. So when I went out one time and I learned that I had, scoliosis, and I didn't even know that the whole time. I don't know that it causes my issues. I think other things had caused it. I had just learned that my spine was crooked during that time. But I've had broken bones, a broken foot. That illness, So it's like I would be going and be good, and then when I was halted for whatever reason, so long to get back into it, then it was a lack of motivation. And not so much support. Like my friends are supportive, but if we were like, hey, let's walk in the morning, one of us would tell the other like, I'm too tired, I'm going back. So it wasn't like I didn't have enough support, I guess, or whatever. Definitely that. And then making the time. So even when I was like, okay, I am gonna freaking do this, I would like start 1, 2, 3 days, and then I just got really busy for 4 days and I let it go. And it was just really hard to get back into things.
A lot of like stopping and starting, and a lot of like, because oftentimes like it's the consistency of it, right? It's like the being able to, and because sometimes a lot of times people get in that headspace, and I think we all get guilty of this sometimes, of being like, well, if I, it's almost like that all in, all out mentality. It's like, well, I didn't do it for 3 days, so I may as well not do it, or it just keeps getting pushed back and pushed back and pushed back because we're not like carving that time out of our day. So how is that all kind of like negatively, I guess, like impacting you, or like where did it kind of come to a point where you're just like, okay, I need to make it, like I need to change something because I'm like, this isn't working.
Well, so definitely in the last couple of years, I think I've gained like 20 pounds. I know that a lot of it has been COVID and drinking more wine. But to that issue. And not doing anything either. I'm not running, haven't been running or anything. So it's all of those things. I've never been a horrible eater. I mean, and honestly, with the program, I had trouble eating enough calories. So maybe I did have an issue with eating. I'm not sure. But anyhow, I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. Ask me again.
No, that's okay. No, So basically, like how was that kind of like negatively impacting you, or like what kind of like?
Mostly the weight gain, lack of energy. And it just, it just got to the point where I was like, I have to do something. Like I'm tired of buying bigger clothes and just not feeling great looking at myself in the mirror and that sort of thing.
And I think, and that's hard, right? Like mentally and emotionally and like, and physically too. But like a lot of times, like, it's not so much like we start to recognize, like it starts to like I guess like sink in, or start to like mess with our mindset about things. And we start to like, we're like, not as we're, when you start buying bigger clothes, you're like, I don't really like that. Like, it's happening. And like, you see yourself in the mirror every day and things like that. And sometimes it can kind of like, it can sneak up on us at times. And then one day we look in the mirror and we're like, damn, what ended up happening? And it can be kind of like a shock sometimes. And it can, it can make things even like worse. Cause then we're like beating ourselves up when, it's understandable that it happens and why we do it, but it's one of those things that it just makes things worse. And it's like this vicious cycle of like, wanting to start something, but then we beat ourselves up about you know, how things are right now. And so we end up sabotaging ourselves in some way. And then we don't ever end up actually making any headway because we're just like constantly spinning our
It is a
wheels.
big circle because, you know, when I was running a lot, my family had to say, you have to take a rest day, Brandy. Like, it was really addictive. You wanted to keep going. You wanted to keep going. And when you're not working out, you're exhausted. But it's hard to find the energy to work out. But if you work out, you'll feel better and have more energy. And so it's like really hard to
it is
just get going. But
yeah, for sure. So whenever you and I, because when you and I first met, it was in like November/December,
yeah,
whenever we kind of like started this whole thing. And so, you know, when we first met, like initially, like what were your kind of like thoughts about like either me or like online coaching in general, or like was it like hesitation wise and things like that? What were some things that like you were just
so,
like kind of in the back of your
with
head?
any kind of program, I guess that I would think about doing, well, yours in particular was restrictions. Like, what am I going to be restricted? You know, and you know, and that's always nerve wracking. But at the same time, I just needed accountability. I was ready to do something, and I'm not going to lie, paying for something helps motivate you.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so I'm like, let's do this, and not that I don't think I really had many hesitations. Like, you answered a lot of questions when we talked. I understood that, you know, you would tell me what to eat or how to eat, you know, to get macros in and calorie wise, and also help with workouts and that sort of thing. Cause that's something I'm not too great on. I probably, you know, would choose to just go run or walk with a friend or do yoga sometimes, but I don't know, you know, like strength workout. I don't know very much about it, or I didn't. It's helpful now, but
I was gonna say, yeah, you're pretty badass at it now. You're pretty, you're on top of it.
I enjoy it. So
yeah, oh yeah, and it's almost like it's like kind of like it's almost like a time that you get to take out of your day to just kind of be be, I don't know, like present, I guess, in a sense, and like really like kind of like feel out how how your body's feeling, and like see yourself getting stronger, and slowly over time, it's almost like you're kind of like creating this like new version of yourself, like day in, day out, and over time you just get to like slowly see like those changes come to fruition. I think that that's really cool. Something I want to touch on though, that you said that not a lot of people say whenever we do like interviews, and I think it's an important thing to like mention is like paying for something, right? Like when we invest something into something, like you're gonna pay more attention to it, right? Because money in a sense is like this like kind of abstract version of our time or like our life, because like we give some of our life away to make money, and then if we put it towards something, that's like putting like this like version of this like kind of like bottled up version of our life towards something. And when you invest that, you care about it a hell of a lot more.
Right.
And I think that that's something that people, you know, you could give all the, you know, and this is, you know, coming from me, somebody who does this for a living, like you could give somebody all the information in the world, like all the free information in the world. And like, and that's great and all, but unless you have like something like tying you to it, to force you to like, not force you, but really motivate you to do it or to utilize it, then yeah, like it's not going to stick as much, or people aren't going to be as adherent to it. So I think that that's really important point. Cause like, if you want to like really take a hard stab at like at your goals, like pay somebody for like whether it's guitar lessons or something. Like I could go online and like learn how to like play guitar or something, but if I really wanted to do like and be dedicated to it, I would pay a guitar teacher or whatever, a guitar musician, I don't know what it's called, but yeah, so no, I love that perspective. And so we've been working together for like it's like 15 weeks now, right? About 15 weeks. Yeah, that's crazy. And so what sort of results have we been able to accomplish together? Because I put in the title of this one of the biggest ones, which is like crazy, is like the body recomp that's been happening. So do you want to talk about that?
So
Oh no, you cut off, right?
A phone call.
There you are. You're good.
So
now.
I felt kind of unworthy about coming on because I have not lost a lot of weight compared to a lot of the other people. But I have lost a lot of inches, and I can see more definition, you know, from especially working out my arms and abs and stuff like that. So yeah, for sure. I mean, more than just that has changed. I feel like, you know, I obviously have more energy to do things. I feel better when I have a bad day. Like I'm not, you know, I'm down on myself or whatever. when I eat horribly or miss a
Yeah.
workout. And I always try to make up a workout. And Austin, I'm going to say I ignored that phone call, and I'm not sure if I can hear you now.
Oh, can you hear me now? Sorry.
No,
I can
I'm
hear
not sure
you.
what to do.
No, that's okay. Here, let me let me go ahead and I'm gonna have you leave and then I'm gonna re-add you. One sec. Let's see. Can you hear me now?
No,
Okay,
I
that's okay.
can't.
One sec. It's okay.
I'm sorry.
Oh no, you're good. Let's see. Boop. And then we're gonna re-invite her to join. We're just getting to the good stuff, guys. We're just getting to the good stuff. It'll take 1 second here. Da-da-da. Let's see. Technical difficulties. That's okay. Cool. We will hopefully see here in just a second. But yeah, that's so funny. Let's see. Da-da-da. Hopefully she'll be back in here in a second. Good moment for a water break. So, how's everybody doing? Let's see.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Oh, perfect. No, you're good. We were just getting to the good stuff, so it's
My
perfect.
phone was
Keeping
really
people.
loud, so I hit work. And anyhow, my chickens are also really loud. I'm not sure if anybody can,
No,
but that's all I hear. So
no, you're good.
okay.
You're good. But yeah, so we were talking about how like we were talking about how like a lot of body recomp and like how mindset shift and how like bad days aren't as bad now. And so like, do you think that that would be like attributed to like having like kind of like a more positive mindset just in general and like having more like confidence kind of like in the day to day with like not only yourself but just being able to like be like I can handle this shit.
Yes, 100%. But I think that's thanks to you and our group. I
Yeah.
mean,
Oh.
yeah, without, everybody going through the same stuff or sharing different things, I don't know that, I'd probably still feel the same way. So it's kind of
Yeah.
for everybody else,
It's kind of eye opening, right?
we all like, oftentimes we don't have our shit together anyway.
Yeah,
So
and that's okay, right? But it's like we can still succeed and make progress towards our goals even if we don't have our shit together, right? It's
right.
like almost every like 95% of people in the community are parents, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're all like, it's almost like it's like a badass moms club in a sense. That's
Right.
what I like. And so it's like so for you, like let's kind of touch on that, I guess, like for the community, like what do you get out of it or how do you like what do you think is what makes it so I guess like I don't know unique or like the value there like in the community, like what do you get out of it, I guess?
I think kind of reiterating what I just said, but just knowing that, I mean, I'm not a stupid person. I know other people deal with things, but just seeing that other people deal with the same stuff every day.
Yeah.
We all, you know, just all of that. But then
Yeah.
also everyone is so supportive in the group. So that's nice too. We're not all just, venting and
Yeah.
nobody caring. Everybody's like, oh my gosh, try this, or all, they're super helpful. And so that helps a lot, I think. I mean, and obviously because it's not just me, like I wouldn't be saying that stuff to myself probably, I wouldn't be helping myself. So I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like it's almost like this like supportive like hive mind kind of deal. It's like, oh, I'm struggling with these things, and then all of a sudden, everybody's like giving advice and
Right.
support, and like, and it's like it's one of those things too where it's just like it's not out of sight, out of mind, right? Because a lot of times with our goals and things like that, like we feel like a lot of times like we feel like we might be alone or like we have like we're having like negative thoughts about ourselves or about our goals or we feel like we're struggling. It's like it just feels very isolating sometimes when you're on a journey, but when you've got all these other people who are struggling with the same thing or talking about some of the same things, you're just like, and you see that and it reminds you that it's like, oh shit, like I have a lot of the same stuff going on in my day to day. But these people are also kicking ass, and it's almost like a reminder, like I can kick ass too, even though I'm struggling. So yeah,
Perspective. It helps a lot put things
yeah,
into
it
perspective.
really does. So that's awesome. Cool. And I want to emphasize too, going back to your progress so far, like you're down like 6 inches on
Mm,
your midsection. Like
yeah.
that's a lot. That's bad. And you were saying, and another thing I wanted to mention too, and I want to call it out is that you said that you haven't lost much weight, right, in terms of the scale, but like you're down like 5 pounds, and on somebody who's your height and where
Mhm.
your weight's at right now, like that's pretty damn good too. And,
Yeah.
including the body recomp stuff that we've been seeing. So it's like, it's
Right.
one of the things, like, it's pretty damn
Yeah.
impressive.
I
So
feel like I still want to lose weight.
yeah.
Obviously I still have a ways to go, but even I was at the doctor not too long ago, and he's like, your BMI is perfect. He's like, everything is fine. Like I'm at normal weight range, even though it's not normal for my life or how it's been
Yeah.
my whole life. He's like, you're at normal for your height
Yeah.
and everything. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So
You're like, thanks, doc. That's awesome.
yeah.
Yeah. So in terms of like, so outside of fitness, I guess, what would you say has been like the biggest change that you've seen like in your life, whether that be like for you personally or like the way that you feel like maybe it's like, impacted like with like family or work or relationships, things like that. Like, because a lot of times when we work on ourselves and our goals, like it can impact other parts of our lives
Right.
too. So what are
Yeah.
your thoughts on that?
So I think the biggest thing, honestly, is just having more energy. That's
Ooh.
been one of the biggest things, which that leads to so many other things. More
Mm,
time, that you want to spend doing fun stuff with your kids or whatever.
yeah.
Um, that's probably the biggest one. But just feeling better about myself, all the way around. So mindset wise,
Yeah.
that like the group helps with all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And then probably even sleeping. I don't fall asleep well at all. It's hard. My mind races constantly.
Mm-hmm.
So adding in routines, whether it's in the
Mm-hmm.
morning, in the evening, both or whatever, that has helped kind of make me go to bed earlier,
Mm-hmm.
which is a good thing because
Yeah.
then as tired in the morning because I'm not a morning person either.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's just I think a lot of things.
Yeah.
But I would say the energy is probably the biggest.
Yeah, that's awesome. And like having that energy and then also having like structure to your day to day that
Mhm.
helps you just get more stuff done and
Right.
be more effective and really like for a lot of people like that do struggle with their fitness journeys a lot of times where they feel like they don't have the time. Like not everybody has like everybody has 24 hours in the day, but some of us are parents and some of us literally have to put that time towards our kids or time towards these other things. And so time management becomes like an extremely valuable skill set to have when you're adding like structure to your day to day. So that way you can fit those things in,
Mhm.
more often than not. And so, yeah, no, I love that. And so for you, like, in terms of like, like you're a very busy person, like you've got a lot of shit going on in your day to day. Like you've got a business, you have 2 kids, you work part-time, you do all these other things, like on top of being like a mom and a wife. And, it's like, so for you, if you had to give advice to somebody else who's also like struggling with these things or is like listening to this right now and they're like, damn, like Brandy and I have a lot in common right now. How like, how can I, be more like Brandy, I guess? Like what would you say like, would be like what was the like a big golden nugget or takeaway that you've had so far that you think helped
Sure.
the most?
So definitely the answer is we have to make time.
Yeah.
And but for me, in order to make time, I had to understand where my time was going. So I'll
Mm.
give a couple for instances, I guess. I read a lot.
Oh.
But it's like 15 minutes while I'm waiting in the pickup line or whatever.
Mm.
Or for instance, yesterday I took my child to dropped him off at sports practice. So I
Mm.
could have went home for like 10 minutes
Mm.
or I could have went to my next meeting
Mm.
early by like 20
Yeah.
or whatever, right? So what would you do? You can come home. What are you going to get done in 10 minutes? So I just went early to my meeting and read until, reading's not, fitness, but
Yeah.
that's how I like figured out how to squeeze in time.
Yeah.
It's pointless to waste time driving home and going back. And so when I
Mm.
broke down all of that, however it was, my daily schedules, and I know things pop up and everything, but
Yeah.
I learned how I could have an extra 30 minutes here, or how if I
Yeah.
switched these, I had an hour
Mm.
or whatever. There were certain things that could be done.
Yeah.
And so I think taking the time to look at what you do every day, and I think Kira touched on this. So I was actually working on this for you guys. It's kind of ridiculous though. So and her not Sunday or Wednesday, last Wednesday.
Yeah.
Her anyhow, that is a great idea. I think that is how I
Mm.
had to figure out how to manage time better. Is
That's huge. That's so important too. And I love that you said that because like a lot of times people like, and the key difference here, right, between somebody who just keeps doing the same stuff every single day and is like, I don't have the time, I don't have the time, I don't have the time is, and you, and what you just talked about is like, you like reflected on what you did like a self audit or a self assessment of
right.
day to day, right? And a lot of people don't do that, right? They just keep trying to do the same shit over and over and over again without getting, any results, or without finding that time ever, because they're so busy kind of going through the motions of the day that they don't ever do it. They don't ever like identify what they could like do a little bit more efficiently, or how to save a little bit more time to really squeeze it in and carve out that time for their journey,
I mean,
for their workouts.
that's something, I mean, I did before, because for instance, right now, my son doesn't have baseball. We're getting ready to have baseball tournaments. For the winter, we didn't. He did play basketball, but so now for like Pitch Fix, for instance, I can spend a whole day on Sundays and get done, whereas I don't have to do as much in the evenings. Well, here soon, in the next couple of weeks, I won't have weekends, so I always have to evaluate my time. So then it's like, well, now I'm gonna have to get groceries on Friday instead of Saturday, and then I have to cook Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday instead of Sunday and Monday and Tuesday, or whatever. Like it always is changing anyway with the season, I guess. So
that's crazy too. And the thing I think important for people to recognize, and also for you, I guess, going forward, because you got all this, and we talk about it too fairly regularly, is like periods of transition, right? Like there's always going to be like periods of transition where either, for a lot of people, it maybe kids are starting school, or maybe kids are starting sports, or maybe somebody's moving somewhere, or maybe, we get sick and we're injured, and, we're trying to get, recovered. So then, once we get back into it, there's these periods of time where it's like, not everything's going to be perfect, or there's going to be periods of time where, we may have to be adaptive or adjust things a little bit here and there. And knowing that that's, going to happen ahead of time is always really helpful, but it's okay that stuff's happening. And it's okay that maybe, instead of being at 100% efficiency with your workouts and your nutrition, like, 90% still way freaking better than zero. Right. So I think that's huge. So cool. So for anyone, that's listening to this right now and thinking about starting their own fitness journey, like what would you say to them? What would you tell them if they've been thinking about it and they're like listening to you right now and they're like, damn, I want to start, but I just don't, what would you say?
So, I think again, I'm going with make time. So you have time. And if you need help, then reach out to someone like you for if they know what they're doing, great. But if they need the motivation, need accountability, that was big for me. Need help. Like I didn't know much about strength training or weights or that. So if you need help, reach out to someone. Otherwise, just make the time and do it.
And a lot of times I think, and that's huge, because I think a lot of times, like and I usually like to say, like, if somebody's if they haven't had a change, or they haven't made a difference trying to do it on their own for like 3-6 months, even a year, if nothing's changed and you just keep trying to do the same thing, like if you would have figured it out on your own, you would have by now, right? And so there's something there that's broken in their like plan or their system or whatever it may be that needs a change. And so however you get that help, whether it's through a coach or whether it's through like trying to seek new info on like YouTube or something like that, like something has to change within their own journey. And I think that's huge. So awesome. Cool. Sweet. Thank you for hopping on this live with me. I really appreciate it. I think that people got a lot of value, and I think that, making that time is so important. And there's a quote that I like. It's not really a quote, but it's like, they're like, people can kind of like fall into like two different categories. And it's either they've got too much patience, but not enough hustle, or too much hustle and not enough patience. And I think a lot of people are in that kind of like, maybe like too much patience category. And because they're waiting for that, and their patience ends up kind of turning into procrastination. And so I think that you kind of hit the nail on the head there with that piece of advice. So I appreciate you.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but I enjoy your system fully. Because I don't like restrictions. So that's one thing too. I don't want, I have friends who, go on a certain kind of diet or do a certain kind of thing, and it's something that's not sustainable. I can't do something that's not sustainable.
No.
Like, that'll work for me. I don't want to give up things. Obviously I have to do things in moderation, but that's like a big thing too. I think people need to know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I love that you said that too, because I think a lot of people are like, they drag their feet to starting a journey because they don't want to miss out on, hanging out with their friends or going out to eat, or they don't want to feel like they can't have certain things. But if you come at it from a sustainable approach where it's like, you might not lose like 10 pounds in a week, but the people that are doing that anyways are just probably going to gain it all back anyways, because they're going to quit, and it's not sustainable. So it's one of those things. So it's like, you got to weigh your options here. It's like, do you want like real results that are going to last like a lifetime, or do you just want a quick fix that's going to, not actually fix anything, and you're going to be in a worse place than you were before you even started it? So yeah, I love that you mentioned that. So cool.
Awesome.
Sweet. Thank you for hopping on this live with me. Everybody, this is Brandy. She's a badass. And I don't know if you're, I want to give you a little shout out, I guess. So if you're in the Brazil, Indiana area, you have a business, you want to do a little shameless plug for your business?
Yeah. So we do a weekly food prep service. I do orders once a week. Once I get all the orders in, I prepare all the food. It usually comes frozen, and then we have a pickup day on Fridays.
That's awesome.
But fun stuff. Most people here in Brazil probably know me. So
okay, cool. Do you have a website or like an account or anything like that?
Right now,
what is it?
It's just on Facebook.
Okay, cool. Awesome.
I do have like a texting subscription service, so I send on that too. But
that's cool. We'll send me a link, and I'll put a link to it in the comments of the video. So people
I will. Thank you.
Sweet, awesome. That's Brandy, guys. Thank you so much. Other than that, guys, let us know your number one takeaway in the comments down below. #replay if you're watching this later time. Don't forget to give the video a like. Helps other people see it, because the algorithm, it makes it happy. And other than that, though, we'll talk to you guys later. Bye. All right. And boop.